All right, that was the president reacting to this week's impeachment hearings and a bunch of other stuff. And we're going to wait for today's second hearing to start. Department of Defense official Laura Cooper and David Hale, a State Department official, will be testifying in a little bit. Earlier today, Ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, facing off with lawmakers. He whipped Democrats in the media into a huge frenzy when he said this in his opening statement.
I know that members of this committee frequently frame these complicated issues in the form of a simple question. Was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
After Sondland said that, Adam Schiff quickly ran to the media microphones to declare victory in case closed. But then the ambassador had to answer actual questions. And it turns out his story has some major holes. Here's just one example.
There were so many different scenarios floating around as to what was going on with Ukraine. So rather than ask the president 9 different questions, is it this, is it this, is it that, I just said, what do you want from Ukraine? I may have even used a 4-letter word. And he said, I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. I just want Zelensky to do the right thing, to do what he ran on, or words to that effect.
Dana.
Yes, sir.
Today was a very confusing day for everybody.
Oh, I followed along perfectly. No, I'm kidding.
I believe Sondland was confused himself. From my understanding, it looks like he comes out and he says there was a quid pro quo. He was talking about a White House meeting. The president wanted a White House meeting, but not until they announced an investigation into the 2016 elections and into Burisma. So that's not a crime. It's just PR for PR. That had nothing to do with military aid. And at the end of the day, maybe this blockbuster testimony wasn't as blockbuster as people believe.
Well, like with most days of this testimony, I have heard from friends on the left who say, slam dunk, amazing, we did so well today, and from Republicans who say, it's over, no problem, this guy was a total joke. So I think both sides will try to tell their story, and we can get into all of that. I felt like during the hearing that the Democrats were excited to have him.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wait, no, we're not so excited.
Yeah.
And then it was like the Republicans and the Democrats got so frustrated with him. And he was just there saying, I just was trying to do my best. He's not a note taker.
Right.
And his memory, as human memories can be faulty. He's like, I'm not exactly sure the dates and the times and the calls. Plus, the State Department won't allow him to access his records. So he can't actually go back and look at it. So the members of Congress are so frustrated. And then you get to this question from Representative Turner. Did no one on this planet told you Trump was trying to tying aid to investigators, yes or no? And he says, yes, no one ever told me that. And I think the Republicans will try to say, there we go. Now, I talked about polls earlier today. Like the polls on impeachment are not going in the Democrats' favor at all. And, well, maybe I shouldn't say at all, on the ones that we've seen so far, especially like in Wisconsin, an important battleground state.
Right.
8 percentage points more than before do people say, we don't think impeachment's the thing. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win, although he's up against all the other possible opponents. But I think that if you have you don't have many persuadables. Democrats are going to say he's guilty. The Republicans are going to say he's not. For the people that are in the middle, I don't think it's going to be very effective for Republicans to go out and say, perfect call, no problem here. Like, they need some sort of an off-ramp so they could say, the aid got to the Ukrainians. We support the Ukrainians. We are for this for our national security. We want to continue to do this. This does not rise to an impeachable offense, and I think that's where the Republicans would probably be most successful after this testimony.
And they may get an off-ramp from the IG report in Durham, which puts it all into perspective. Greg,
yes.
Did you wake up at 9 and watch the hearings minute by minute?
Well, first I woke up at 9 and then I walked home. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why I understand this better than most people in the media, and it's because I ran stuff for a living, right? If you manage things, we talked about this earlier, Dana, in your office. We talked about how anybody who's involved in management, which means hiring or firing or dealing with budgets, dealing with human resources, we look at this and we're going like, wow, this is just how the world works. And then you understand that how so many people in the media, They don't have a talent stack, right? They have a singular vertical experience from journalism in high school, journalism in college, being promoted through the ranks as a journalist. They don't have a collection of versatile skills. So they don't understand. It's like why journalists are so bad with writing about businesses and writing about the economy is they have no financial backgrounds. They're pathetic, right? And the people whose hairs are on fire on Twitter, the media reporters, generally have almost no experience whatsoever in the outside world. They don't go to an office and have to deal with like people asking for raises or having to cut staff. So when it comes to issues about business or employment or human interaction, they're abject failures. So I use this example. There is a period in your life as a businessman where your personal goals and your professional goals coincide, right?
Good point.
Joe Biden is a political rival. You investigate him, he benefits the country, and it benefits the leader. That is where a professional and a personal goal coincides. Likewise, we have a great hair and makeup staff at the Five. Personally, it makes me look great. Professionally, it helps the show. Because if I look good, the show does better. If I look like a slob, it doesn't. In this case, the personal and the professional goals coincide. When you're the president of the United States and you're dealing with a person who may be dealing with a corrupt country, a known corrupt country in the past, possibly in the future, it may benefit you to investigate him, but it benefits the country as well. Ain't no crime.
Wow.
Just a fun time.
Juan, would you like to respond to that?
I agree, Greg, says Juan.
You know,
Well,
I don't
That's a
even
pretty
know,
good point.
I don't even know where to start with Greg on that one, because I think this was...
I do look good, though, Juan.
Well, there's no question.
And so do you.
You're looking
I mean,
lovely.
they work miracles.
In fact, I would say you look marvelous.
Thank you.
All right, but
All
I think this was a bad day for President Trump. And, you know, one way to look at it is always to check out what other people are saying. So today I was with Dana. We were doing the coverage, and I noticed that Ken Starr and Andy McCarthy both thought Trump had a bad day, especially after the morning session when you heard directly from Ambassador Sondland. It was dramatic in terms of that damning opening statement. It was clear that he was saying, was there a quid pro quo? As you played in the soundbite, Jesse, he said yes. And if he had not said that there was a quid pro quo, it would have been absolutely deflating for the Democrats. This was what the Democrats had advertised as this is going to be our Johnny, and this is going to be a key moment. Afterwards, Adam Schiff said this was a seminal moment today,
Right.
and that's what it turned out to be.
But what was the quid pro quo for, Katie? It wasn't with the military aid,
Yes, it
according to
was.
Sondland. No, it wasn't.
This is when details, especially for journalists, really matter. So the opening statement in the morning, when he says there's a quid pro quo, he admitted this was something that he was presuming to be happening, and he was saying that it was with people working for Trump. Later in the afternoon, he then said directly, the president has never told me to engage in a quid pro quo. He hasn't asked me for that directly. He's never said those things. So while he inferred from people he was working with overseas that maybe that's what was being asked for, he didn't implicate the president directly as an order coming directly from the White House. But that being said, I don't think Adam Schiff really cares about any of the facts or whether they're good or bad for Republicans. He is moving this thing forward no matter what happens. He ran to the cameras during that break to talk about articles of impeachment that he wants to put forward. Guarantee you he's going to write one up on bribery and the other one up on obstruction of Congress because he talked about it today, whether they're valid or not. And so get ready, House, because Adam Schiff is driving the train and you're going along for the ride.
And they're going to impeach him for tweeting also.
Yes,
Remember that
exactly.
tweet?
Yep.
Very impeachable.